former Trump official and Capitol riot insider Steve Bannon is now changing his tune, interestingly, saying that he would be more than happy to testify to the January 6th committee. But wait, hold on. This is as Bannon faces 2 charges of criminal, not civil contempt, in refusing to supply documents and testimony that have been requested by the committee in relation to the January 6th riot. So now he was subpoenaed by the committee, I believe it was back in October of last year, because of, well, his relation to the January 6th riots, of course. On the night prior to January 6th, January 5th, he seemed to have known that there was going to be some sort of riot or something going on at the Capitol. He did say, what was it, that hell would be coming. And so, that didn't look good. That didn't look good. So now, here's the thing. He refused to answer that subpoena and then filed a claim last week saying that, well, look, here's the thing. I can't get a fair trial for that, criminal contempt charge because, the House Select Committee, they've been talking a lot about January 6th, and that's on the forefront of people's minds. So, it's going to be tainting the possible jury. Yes, that's what it is. Now he put that out and then said, well, yeah, I'm happy to talk to him though. Very, very happy to talk to him. Why the sudden change? Well, I'm pretty sure I know. Steve Bannon's in a lot of trouble. I mean, look, Politico revealed that Donald Trump's lawyer, Justin Clark, recently spoke to the FBI. What he said to the FBI is basically, oh, that entire defense of having executive privilege? Yeah, it turns out we never gave him executive privilege. He didn't have executive privilege. Bannon had lied about this to Congress, to everyone. And so, sorry. Now, Bannon found out about this, learned about this, and said, oh, crap. My entire defense saying that I have executive privilege when I actually didn't really have executive privilege to begin with, but me claiming to have executive privilege and Donald Trump backing me up and saying that, oh, yeah, he's got executive privilege so that he doesn't have to talk to the committee as part of his defense, him not having that anymore, that means he's in big, big trouble. On Saturday, Bannon suggested that Trump had waived those claims of executive privilege and permitted him to testify. Trump then signed a letter supporting Bannon's reversal and claimed to have waived executive privilege. Again, nothing to waive. Never had it. Again, never had that executive privilege. There's just no argument that he can make. He has no argument. So now, again, what does this mean? So, of course, Bannon will be testifying. That doesn't mean he'll say anything worthwhile. Okay? He's not going to add anything to value to the January 6th committee. He's certainly not going to flip on Donald Trump. But, he might likely plead the fifth the whole time. Again, like Michael Flynn, waste everybody's time. But it also means that he's trying to get out of the contempt charges. And that's the thing, of course, that could really sink him. Now, remember, this is not civil contempt. This is criminal contempt. So even though he'll testify and provide the documentation now, or claims that he will, that doesn't mean the charges are going to go away. It will still apply. In fact, here's Assistant U.S. Attorney Amanda Vaughn writing this in Politico. The defendant's timing suggests that the only thing that has really changed since he refused to comply to with the subpoena in October of 2021 is that he is finally about to face consequences of his decision to default. All of the above described circumstances suggest the defendant's sudden wish to testify is not a genuine effort to meet his obligations, but a last-ditch attempt to avoid accountability. Now, one of you in the chat here says, well, he wants to get a deal. Well, here's the thing. He would get a deal if he actually showed a good faith effort to provide information that was necessary. And by the way, generally, if that's the case, if it's believed that you have information that is helpful and that you would be a trustworthy source to provide such information, then usually be the Justice Department or someone trying to broker a deal with you, trying to offer you a deal. It doesn't really necessarily work the other way around. At least I wouldn't think so, because Bannon has not proven himself to be a trustworthy source. If anything, his motives are very, very shady. I wouldn't trust Bannon as far as I could throw him. And look, he's kind of a big guy, so, you know. And I'm saying that as also kind of a big guy. It'd be very difficult for me to throw him. And so I don't trust him at all. And neither should the DOJ, neither should anyone. This guy's a serial liar. He's a criminal. He's somebody who lied about donations. Remember when he got a bunch of donations from Trump supporters to build a wall? And then he just took that money and he put it in his pocket. That's who Steve Bannon is. He's a criminal. Absolute criminal. So now, Vaughn, getting back to her, she also said that Clark also told DOJ that the former president's counsel never asked or was asked to attend the defendant's deposition before the select committee, that the defendant's attorney misrepresented to the committee what the former president's counsel had told the defendant's attorney, and that the former president's counsel made clear to the defendant's attorney that the letter provided no basis for total noncompliance. So basically, he lied a bunch of times about multiple things. If that isn't throwing Bannon under the bus, I don't know what is. And now, as a result of that, he's in a panic. Vaughn noted that the DOJ provided Bannon's team with an FBI report of Clark's interview on June 30th, the day it was conducted. Two sources familiar with Clark's FBI interview said the session lasted 45 minutes and was limited to a discussion of Bannon's case. In addition, the sources said Clark did not discuss any of his conversations with Trump, which were treated as attorney-client privilege. Bannon's attorney indicated they were aware of Clark's interview last week, citing it without identifying Clark as a reason to delay Bannon's trial until October. And in a separate filing, the DOJ rejected additional arguments by Bannon to delay that trial, including a newly lodged argument that one of the prosecutors in the case, Molly Gaston, once worked with the top select committee staffer, Kristen Ammerling, on Capitol Hill, and were in a book club together. Oh, you had collusion, of course, because they were in a book club. Right. Okay, then. In its effort to create panic, the defendant also mischaracterizes the information the government provided in relating to Kristen Ammerling, Vaughn wrote. As the government informed the defendant on July 8th, she and Ms. Gaston worked together for over a decade ago, and were in a book club that Ms. Gaston has not attended in almost 2 years. At no point did the government represent that Ms. Ammerling and Ms. Gaston have a close personal relationship, because they do not. But even then, they're like, but you don't understand. They had once known each other, and therefore they're somehow working together as a conspiracy to take down Steve Bannon. To make it very, very unfair. And in fact, you know what? We had these two, the prosecutor was next to somebody else, lived next to somebody else. He once passed them on the street. That's enough. That's an obviously super unfair trial. You need to delay. What kind of excuses, other excuses, are they going to come up with? No, this is Steve Bannon trying to save his ass. And of course, Donald Trump also trying to save his ass. Saying he waived the privilege. Oh no, I'm waiving the privilege that I never had at all. No, this is ridiculous. Bannon's lawyers also argued the news coverage of the committee's hearings could taint the jury pool and deprive him of a fair trial. Gee, I wonder why that is. Could it be that, the fact that January 6th was pretty bad? Select committee members have made inflammatory remarks about the culpability of President Trump and his closest advisors, including Mr. Bannon, and it broadcast to millions of people their purported findings on issues that may prejudice the minds of jurors on this case. Mr. Bannon's lawyers wrote in a June 29th court filing. Considering how this is all related, I don't see why it should be delayed at all. Again, Steve Bannon is a criminal. We know because he was already convicted, found guilty of stealing from Trump supporters, and then was pardoned by Trump. He laughed about it on a yacht. But not only that, of course, we know that he's spread the big lie. He's said all sorts of inflammatory things, and admitted to, by the way, this is according to Peter Navarro's own book, of supporting fake electors as part of the Green Bay sweep in order to try to steal an election for Donald Trump. That's it. And now he's hoping, apparently, that people will have a, short enough attention span to forget about the damning testimony to the January 6th committee and allow him to try to escape with minimal repercussions. Not only that, but think about it this way. Wanting a delay, again, you could say that it's maybe getting ready for the midterms, right? So if you start that trial in October, and if he manages to stretch it out, could he theoretically stretch it out past the midterms? Which the midterms were not looking good for Democrats, meaning that Democrats would no longer possibly have a majority in the House and the Senate. And therefore, a lot of the committees, the committee assignments would end up being changed. And then, of course, combine that with the fact that you have right-wingers that are saying, oh, here's what we're going to do when we retake the House and the Senate. We're going to launch a bunch of phony investigations at Joe Biden. So that everybody forgets about January 6th, and that, of course, my trial gets buried in the news cycle under a bunch of bullshit. And so, maybe I'll find a way to get away scot-free. That's what I see could happen. Now, the interesting news here, and maybe the good news, is that he got himself into this mess. And it doesn't look like right now anybody's going to be able to get him out of that. And I think if anything, if they do this right, if anything good can come from the January 6th committee, these hearings, it would be justice served on Steve Bannon. Because remember, out of all of the dangerous people that served in the Trump administration, he was one of the worst. One of the worst, most dangerous kinds of human beings. And so I hope that they're able to nail him.